Welcome to this normal session of the Danville City Commission for this evening, Monday, June the 14th, 2021. And I must say, it is nice to see the gang back. You have been missed. And so as we say, hail, hail, the gang's all here.
And I want to know who you're calling normal.
Like I said, you've been missed, the fun begins. We will begin with a moment of prayer by Commissioner Jenny Holland.
Okay, let us pray. We humbly bow before you, Lord, and ask that you guide and guard and direct our hearts and our motives today and the decisions that we make, and those decisions will be in the best interest of every citizen in the community. Help us, Lord, to lay down any amount of ego and pride at the door and to approach the city manners before us with true humility and a servant's heart. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Mr. Evan Teague, would you come front and center and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I thought it'd be good for our Parks and Rec director to be seen by everyone.
Hey, 2 meetings.
That's right.
2 Pledge of Allegiance for
Yeah,
me.
well, third time's a charm. You'll get it right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commission, you have had the agenda before you since Friday. I've heard no other changes, so I will assume we can move right on into hear the public. This is the public's opportunity to bring to our attention any issues that are not on tonight's agenda. We will get to that. I'm sorry, this is agenda items. See, y'all have got me nervous, see. This is about agenda items. Is there anything on the agenda tonight that anyone wants to talk about? Seeing none, we'll move right into item number 1, which is a proclamation. And I don't know who's going to receive this. Do you? Mr. Atkins, you want to read this, sir?
I can. I'm going to officially take the proclamation to the community-wide Juneteenth celebration this coming Saturday. It's a Danville-Harrisburg joint Juneteenth celebration at West Lane Park in Harrisburg. Starts at 10 a.m. So, you can borrow your copy. I don't want to read it over this. My eyes aren't that good. Proclamation in honor of Juneteenth 2021. Whereas Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, and Emancipation Day, is a holiday celebrating the emancipation of those who have been enslaved in the United States. And whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in these United States of America. And whereas 2 years later, 2 years and 5 months and 18 days later, June 19th, 1865, General Gordon Granger announced that slaves in Texas were free by order of the President of the United States. Whereas Freedom in Texas organized the freedmen in Texas organized the first of what became the annual celebration of Jubilee Day on June the 19th, and whereas June the 19th has a special meaning to African Americans, and it's called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years, and whereas the Heart of Kentucky is hosting a Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, June the 19th, 2021, at 10 o'clock a.m. at West Lane Park, located at 345 West Lane in Harrisburg. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Paris and the Board of Commissioners of the City of Danville do hereby proclaim June the 19th, 2021 as Juneteenth in the city of Danville, and urge all citizens to observe Juneteenth as an opportunity to reflect, rejoice, and plan for a brighter future as we continue to address racial injustices in our society today.
Do I hear a motion for the acceptance of the proclamation?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Cardle. Commissioner Terry, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Great, motion carries. Item 2 is the approval of the previous minutes, those being May 20th and May 24th and May 26th. At your earliest convenience, I'll accept a motion to approve or amend.
I'll make a motion to approve all 3 sets of minutes as presented, and want to call attention to the fact that the May 20th meeting that I was absent.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. I ask for your consideration of the appointment of Pat Boatwright to the Danville Architectural Heritage Board. Her term, if so approved, will expire on June 30th, 2024. I'd like a motion to that effect, please.
I'll move to appoint Pat Boatwright to the DAHB Board.
Thank
As
you, Mr.
presented.
Atkins. Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. That motion will carry. Item 4 is the reappointment, I should say, of Phil Showalter to the Board of Assessments and Appeals. And if approved, his term will expire also on June 30th, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion that we reappoint Phil Showalter to the Board of Assessments and Appeals.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardle. Is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Atkins, thank you. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 5, Codes Report. Ms. Lester, good afternoon.
Good evening. We're real close now, aren't we?
Real close.
Instead of way, way back. It's good to see everyone. For the month of May, we had 40 notice of violations issued. We issued 72 parking citations, 34 business licenses. We recovered 28 liens for a total of $8,064. And then we had a total inspections, activities, and complaints of 130 for the month. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Nice job on getting the money back.
Yeah, that's great. Great report.
Takes a lot of work, and with a lot of help from our city attorney as well.
And while we have you at the microphone, congratulations, good shout out. You're going to be presenting across the state for KLC
Yes.
Wednesday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? is your
Tomorrow.
presentation? Okay.
Yes. Alcohol and
Congratulations.
beverage control. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Uh-oh. Item 5 is the Parks and Rec update. Mr.
Thanks
Teague?
for having me tonight. Just wanted to give you an update of our programs that are taking place right now. I think the last time I spoke with you all, we were in the process of getting our league play up and running, still taking registration. After our registration, we have 223 kids playing T-ball with a total of 19 teams. Junior baseball, 107 kids involved in that with 10 teams. Senior baseball, 93 kids, total of 8 teams. Junior softball, 63 participants with a total of 6 teams. And senior softball with 69 participants, total of 6 teams. Total of 555 kids we got out this year to play baseball and softball and T-ball out in the park. So those numbers are one of the highest numbers that we've had, especially with our T-ball team totaling up to 19 teams. So I myself, I thought that was pretty impressive that we were able to bring out that many kids to play. We also have our day camp that is in full effect right now. We have 35 full-time kids that attend that with 15 part-time kids that attend that. We also have our pool up and running. Our hours are a little modified right now due to lack of lifeguards, but we keep getting interest as days go on. So fortunately, we're able to have enough to make our pool properly ran and function. So our hours, as of right now, are Monday through Friday, 12 to 6. And then we still have our weekend tournaments that are continuing to go on out at the park. We were unable to have that tournament due to the heavy downpour that we had this week on Thursday and Friday, and then got a shower Saturday that pretty much did us in as well. So we got a lot going on out at the park, so that's exciting that we're able to do that now, and things have freed up. So and we also have an athletic supervisor position that is still opening. We're taking applicants now, and we'll be reviewing those over the next couple of weeks.
Any questions?
Well, I think you need to be sure you publicize the fact that the hours at the pool for the public
Okay?
have been extended and will continue to extend as you get more lifeguards available.
I will do that.
You can't walk out there without somebody asking you to go.
Oh, our phone's been ringing off the hook.
Evan, other than the pool, what other things should this commission in the future be looking to add to your palette?
Well, I would personally like to develop a volleyball league. We have 2 courts out there that are, they are used, but I feel that we could develop a league and be able to get enough participants to form our own in-house league and run that volleyball league. So that is probably the next on my list as far as programs. As of right now, I think it's important that we get an athletic supervisor in there as well to help generate more programs and develop leagues along with me.
When you say athletic supervisor, give us your idea of those qualifications. Who are you looking for?
For a qualified athletic supervisor, we would like someone with a college degree with a major in Parks and Recreation or sports management, have some experience of scheduling and managing leagues within themselves, being able to manage employees as well, schedule part-time referees, umpires, and be able to successfully run a league.
And this is the position that you were in prior to moving up
Yes,
to
ma'am.
director? Yeah.
Is
Mayor,
this posted somewhere? Or?
It is posted.
Okay.
We've had several applicants apply so far and in the process of reviewing those.
If we could, keep in mind that lifeguard shortage is an industry problem, not just a local problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
it.
Yeah,
Just to
that's been
make sure
something
that's
all
understood.
across the board.
What do you
It's-
think's causing
We're
that?
just not affected by that.
What do you think is causing a lifeguard shortage?
Well, no one swam last year, so maybe a lot of people didn't get certified throughout last year. Maybe their license expired. I'm not real sure what causes that problem. I think
They probably
if I
couldn't,
knew, I would do my best to try to help out, but
they probably couldn't get certified last year, right?
They could.
I doubt that they could, no.
Is there a way for us to offer a certification program?
We're working with the Wellness Center on that. They try to do that themselves
Yeah,
or
they-
sponsor a program, and Evan has a good relationship with them, and they're working together real well on trying
Okay.
to sort that out.
We've also been in touch with Center College and the Country Club as well to see if any of their lifeguards would be willing to double duty. So we've been in contact with several people. I think it's just kind of all across the board that lifeguards are in demand right now.
Yeah, if we could get that pool open on the weekends, that would help.
Yeah, that would be huge. That's my goal right now.
Yeah, okay.
Evan, were you able to hire enough of the part-time summer employees?
Yes, I was. We're in full force right now, so we have plenty of concession staff workers, umpires for our baseball and softball games, day camp counselors, along with some part-time maintenance help out at the park.
I informed 2 agents late this afternoon to contact you and contact Randy Board about, in case you all had a list of some folks waiting for employment, because they're looking for some summer employees as well.
Okay.
And I don't think they're Miami, but BCTC is one of them, looking for some part-time summer employees,
Okay.
temps.
How quickly did the summer camp fill up?
Pretty quick.
Okay.
So, I mean, we
Big
still have a
demand.
waiting list, and that is, I guess we're still taking names daily. So we have a waiting list. If we have any dropout, we call someone on the list and fill that back up. So right now, we're right at about 50 kids.
Okay, yeah, I called maybe 5 days in, and that was 5 days too late, so I thought, did they fill up in one day?
It filled up quick. As soon
Yeah,
as we
so
made that
big
announcement.
demand.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have any sway with anybody?
Yeah, don't you know somebody?
No.
Very good. I like the numbers. The participation numbers are
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
Evan, I've gotten some really good feedback on you and all of your staff. So thank you all for working really hard.
Well, I appreciate that.
Kevin, is there a number that maximizes, where it's beyond what we're able to handle?
Well, our pool isn't the biggest, and that's typically where they're at. To be honest, it's hard to manage 50 kids, and you know, when we have weather, we try to transport them to either the movie theater, or we want to take a trip to the fire department as well. So we kind of have to keep our numbers to a reasonable amount to where we can handle them.
How about on the other side, as far as league play and that kind of thing? You got 550 some odd. How far can you take that?
As many as we can get. As many as we can get, we'll just add another team. So we've actually had a great turnout of volunteer coaches as well. So without volunteer coaches, we wouldn't be able to make those leagues happen. So we were grateful to get enough people in the community to step up and help us form our leagues.
Were you able to get the online sign-up deployed?
We didn't have it in time.
Okay.
For future references in the fall, we will continue on with online signups with our program. So Civic Rec, that is. We will be able to continue on with online signups once more programs are developed. But it kind of hit in that time frame where we were already taking signups and continuing to plug in information into the program.
I thought that might have helped your numbers if you were
I think
able
it
to have
would.
gotten it.
I do
And I think it will.
would. Everybody likes simple these days, so
Yeah.
I think that'll simplify a lot of things.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
you.
all. Y'all have a good evening.
Item 7 is resolution number 2021-06-14-01. This is with respect to acceptance of the brand standards guide, which you have before you. Mr. Coffey, would you like to take it from here? Ashley?
So you all accepted our new logo that was designed by Ryan Lanigan at the May 10th meeting. And this guide is just how we're allowed to use the logo, our font style, our color guide, things like that. So we just ask that you accept that so that we can start using our new logo.
Do I hear a motion for the resolution?
I move we approve resolution 2021-06-1401.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Carl. Commissioner Terry, thank you. I have a question. So in all of this, there's nothing that says that you use this logo for the letterhead or business cards or anything. Have I missed something here?
Those things. And so, for example, if you look at the guide, the general theme of the sheets that he's provided you, the guide on, is the beginning of your letterhead, right? And so at the top of it, where you have visual standards, so the organization of the standards guide itself is telling you how to coordinate your documents and apply the standard from a physical standpoint, how not to distort it, for example, proportions, the colors, the font style, things like that.
They got that, but I didn't see anything in here about, business cards or anything like that.
Yeah, so the business cards will be designed based on this standards guide, and the letterhead will also.
In other words, the answer is no, it's not in here, but it will be.
Well, yes, and like I said, the template of your letterhead is the template of his sheets.
I got you.
It says
Yeah.
official logo in the resolution.
But it doesn't say how it's going to be used, other than we know how it can be used on letterhead, but
Yeah.
on cards, nothing. But anyway, no big deal. You'll figure that out. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other questions or comments? You sure?
I'm sure.
I appreciate the work that Ashley and everybody did on this. I know it took on a life of its own.
It did.
It's a long way from where it started, that's for sure.
Nothing else? Do I hear a chair called question? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 8 is municipal order number 06-14-01-2021. This is authorizing signatures for enterprise fleet management. Mr. Coffey, anything you want to say about that?
Not directly, other than to summarize, when we're transactioning those vehicles or when those transactions are occurring, there's paperwork that needs signed. What we'd like to do is actually confirm that the signature is permissible and to sell, and for example, this power of attorney that the enterprise staff uses once executed to make the disposition. And so it is more correct, probably more officially detailing the authorizations for signatures.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I'll move for approval of municipal order 06-1401-2021.
Mr. Terry, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cottle, thank you. Further discussion?
Does she have to read this? No? Okay.
Not a municipal order.
Okay. That said, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 9 is Resolution 2021-06-14-02. This is seeking approval for the American Rescue Plan Act terms and conditions. Mr. Coffey, anything you want to add there?
No, sir, it's self-explanatory, other than we would like to summarize it as it is the document that needs signature for the city to receive the ARP money or the American Rescue Plan money, which is about $4 million.
That ought to be an easy motion to make. Anybody want to do it?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. Anyone want to speak against it? Seeing none, all in favor to say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 10 is our city manager report from Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We are, first like to say that, let's talk about the budget calendar real quick. So of course, we've had a bunch of different meetings over the last little bit, and so what I'd like to do is go ahead and schedule the last 3 meetings for us, one of which we were anticipating occurring on the 28th. When we look at the newspaper's actual date of publication, we need to meet before that day in order to have the second reading, therefore it can be published, right? So if we wait to the 28th to have the second reading of the budget, then we won't be able to take that approved publication and make the schedule. So what staff is suggesting at this time is to meet on the 16th, if you all can, at 10 a.m. Take about an hour and present the final draft of the budget we received. You all, the last time we met, we talked about debt service and financing. We finally received the report from Compass this morning. And so we would like to then detail and summarize the budget at that meeting on the 16th. Then that would give us a few days, come back on the 22nd at 10 a.m. for a potential first reading. And then follow up on the 24th for a second reading, also at 10 a.m. And then that way we can meet the publication deadline prior to the 30th.
All three of these at 10?
10 a.m. We did have one comment from one of the commissioners that maybe we would have the 22nd at night. Certainly, that's something we can do. If you all would like to do that, we can meet at 5:30 and take more time if that's something you all want to do.
Give us the dates again, the 16th?
16th at 10 a.m., the
22nd.
22nd to be determined, and the 24th at 10 a.m. The 24th, the second reading should be, we would anticipate that being a fairly short meeting, probably 30 minutes or so.
I just may or may not be able to make the 22nd, so if that works for everybody else, then go ahead without me and I'll work it out. I had asked for that one to be in the evening if possible, but if not, that's okay too. I'll try to work it out.
I don't mind, either way.
Okay. Yeah, I can't do the 22nd until, I could do evening,
Okay.
but I have 2 appointments during the morning out of town, so.
How's the evening for everybody else?
Good, what time?
Can we do 5:30?
5:30 is fine with
Is
us.
that too late?
I can do 5:30.
Okay.
Well, could we consider 5:30 for all three of them?
We can.
5:30, 16. Yeah, because that
Is that
would be
okay with-
better.
Is that okay with staff?
It's up to you. We can accommodate that particular week.
I could do that.
24th, we got that, yeah. Well, some of us have an all-day meeting to attend on the 24th. It's here in the city, well, I guess we could break for a short meeting, but
KLC is on the 24th, KLC Board of Directors meeting.
The evening's
At
fine.
night?
That works. It shouldn't be a long meeting.
Do you want to look at the 23rd?
We can do that as well. It's up
Or
to
does
you.
that give us enough time?
That's enough time. We just need to.
The 22nd and the 23rd, can we do that?
You just need 24 hours between each meeting.
That's correct.
So it would have to be the evening also to make that.
It would, you're going to push if you meet on the 22nd in the evening, you're going to push the 23rd to the evening.
It's up to you all.
And we said that the 16th,
Is at 10 a.m.
who can't do the earlier time on the 22nd? Was that you?
That's me.
I can't do any time the 22nd until at night.
Okay.
Or do we want to look at the 21st at all?
I have jury duty. I can't swear that I could be available. Part of the problem
Even
is
if
we
it's
all
eve-
have.
Even if it's evening?
I'm sorry?
Even if it's in the evening?
I could do the evening, yeah.
Is the budget going to be presented at the 16th?
Correct.
Okay. So the public will have input potentially at both of the meetings?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so what are we back to?
Evenings,
16th was definite, right?
was that at 5 or 5:30?
Are we going to do,
16th, we were proposing at 10 a.m.
Okay.
okay. Well, Atkins requested that all of them were at 5:30?
Or, yeah,
I'm flexible. I just, the 14th, 15th, the 15th, 16th, and 17th, someone has paid for all of us to attend the KLC ACE conference. It's online, so I guess we could do these things and still do that, but I just was thinking that, whatever calendar you all set, I'll make it work for me.
Well, if we are going to have public input, I would
Yes.
rather have it in the evening so that the public can attend.
That's a novel idea.
You won't have public input on the 16th, however. That would be the budget presentation.
Right.
So that would be where everyone is presented with it, but there would not be,
Okay. But the 16th interferes with some of the meetings that we have, the 16th, 17th, and 18th.
that's correct, yeah.
Some of the
I hear that, yeah.
KLC education.
Yeah, 15, 16, 17, yeah.
So 5:30 on the 16th.
Okay.
So you want to do them
Yeah.
all at 5:30 and keep it simple?
That would be
Makes a lot of
great for
sense.
me.
Okay,
Okay.
16th to 5:30. Now,
I think we ought to just add it to the end of the meeting tonight and go till like 11 or something.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You can leave now, Counselor.
22nd and 24th. 5:30, 5:30, 5:30, right?
16th, 22nd, 24th, or 23rd?
24.
And nobody can do the morning of the 24th.
I can, but
Well,
I
I
don't think anybody else
can.
can.
But you can't, Jenny?
The morning of the 24th, if it's just 30 minutes, yeah.
If you can do that, then I can.
Do you want to do the 24th at 10 a.m. then?
That's
That would
okay.
be your second reading. The odds of it going
Yeah,
long is less.
shouldn't take 15, shouldn't take 10.
Okay. So is 10 good for you, or do you need it to
Yeah, I
be-
can make that happen.
Okay.
So we have the 16th at 5:30 PM, the 22nd at 5:30 PM, and the 24th at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Thank
And the
you all.
most public input would probably be the 22nd, is that right? Okay,
Yes,
so that's
yeah.
good to be late, thank you.
Okay?
Then we have, if we move on past that, then there is in 2022 is when the comp plan based on the 2017 update should be replaced or should be updated again. That includes the full comp plan amendment for the city and the Flume amendment and the things that planning and zoning are starting to talk about. We had reached out to KLC looking for a guidance document to help us. In our conversations with them, we really feel like the community would benefit from having a KLC guided comp plan development process. We've not done that the last few times. The time before the 17 update, it took years to get the comp plan updated. And so what we felt like is that if we could incorporate KLC into the process, we would fix our time frame and fix our schedule into their standard process. KLC provides this service for other cities. In fact, they're working for the city of Bellevue now on their comp plan. So they're actually not, they will not actually be doing the work for us per se. They will be guiding the public interaction process. They will be ensuring that what we're doing is very typical, that we don't skip valuable sessions of public feedback, and they will coordinate that feedback in the way that they do in other cities. And so what we would like to do is, we're not asking you to necessarily approve that or anything tied to them, but what we would like is just general affirmation that for this cycle of our comp plan, our recommendation is to try to utilize KLC's services to do that. We will need to get on their calendar if that's what you want to do. And the reason I say that now is not because it's hot on our to-do list at the present, but KLC has limited staff as well, and we will need to get on their calendar if we want to use their services for this activity next year. Otherwise, their staff time will fill up, and we just won't have an opportunity to use them. So staff is suggesting that, and from nod of the head or motion, if you would like to direct us to do that, that'd be fine.
Do it.
I think it's good.
Yeah. Okay. And so what we'll do is we'll come back in a month or so, once we get past the budget and get past implementing the budget in July, we'll come back with their proposal, and you can authorize that. But more importantly, we'll reach out to KLC and make sure we're on their schedule. What they're looking at right now would be in March, somewhere in that time frame, to begin the process of the public outreach and communication.
Okay. Do you pay them, or?
It would cost the city some money for their staff
They're
time.
the at-cost group, though,
There,
right?
that
So
would be
it's
at
very,
cost.
very low.
Yes,
Okay.
it is a service KLC provides to all the cities. We just have to be able to work them in to our schedule and to accommodate their staff time.
Is that the group that does the mapping, if I recall?
The Bluegrass Ad supports mapping services, and they are also a quasi-public agency and work to support cities throughout, but theirs is dialed into the 17 county area around us. And we will use them probably during the comp plan, to be honest with you. They'll do some of the mapping tied to the Flume, probably. We'll proceed in that direction then. And that's really all I had.
Then we'll move right on into Hear the Public. This is the public's opportunity to talk about anything that is not on tonight's agenda.
I do.
No.
Several of them.
You can go ahead and do it. That way I don't see
My name is Margaret Calhoun, and I'm trying to get Michael M. Memorial Park together. And you okayed for a splash, water splash down there. And the kids are upset because they said they couldn't do it this year, and I was promised that they would do it this year. I talked to the mayor about it earlier. And he's gonna see what he can do.
There was no, the capital that was programmed for Parks and Recreation this year was for the grant-matched playground equipment, the Land and Water Grant, and also the Little Tykes Grant. In this coming budget year, what we've done is we've looked at the Parks and Rec master plan, and then part of that master plan had 3 or 4 steps in it. The first few steps have been done. One was merge Parks, and I know I'm going down into a rabbit hole, but I want to make sure you understand. One of the first steps was merging into a single government entity, which has happened. The city commission has hired Mr. Teague, that you saw present, to be the new Parks and Rec director. Then there were some other land acquisition tied to that plan in order to spread parks out throughout town, one of which is Jenny Rogers' acquisition. And so now that those acquisitions have happened, what we're asking the commission for in the upcoming budget is to take the master plan and overlay it against the parks and the facilities that are now owned by the city, including the fairgrounds, including Michael Smith Park, including Jackson Park, including Cowan and Jenny Rogers, for example, and to identify the best facilities to input into each one of those parks so that capital construction can start. That process, we have already issued the RFP for the services, and if the commission passes the budget, then we will present them July, a way to get started on that. That will take maybe 6 months, okay?
Yeah, 'cause I met with Josh at the park. There's a lot of work need to be done down there, 'cause we had a homeless man living down there maybe about 3 months ago, and I called the police. Because he had a mental problem, because he would be arguing like he's with somebody, wouldn't be nobody with him. And they came and got him the second round.
Well, we appreciate you doing that, and
But he knocked out one side of the wood out, and then he put a hole in the ceiling. Because I knew that the guys was working on the gazebo, they put a new roof on it, and it's a hole. I got pictures of it. And Mr. Josh, he seen it too, and big old hole in the ground. And we really need lighting down there. I don't understand they put lighting on the other side of the street and didn't put none going down to the park. People walking down there for exercise and everything, they be asking how come it's not no lighting.
we will.
And they fussing about they had to park way up there by the basketball court. And Mr. Josh, I wish he was here. That park is big enough to have a parking lot, I mean.
Yeah, we did talk about that, and it's easy to agree with that. Josh, ironically, is actually coaching a softball team right now. So he'll be here in a little bit because he's
Okay.
actually on the agenda.
Okay.
But what we're asking the commission with the proposed budget is to fund some of the construction, and so that as the spring rolls around, the city staff can move towards constructing the facilities that will be approved, hopefully, for each location. Cowan Street's underutilized. That is an asset of the community. Jackson Park is the same way. Now Jenny Rogers, we want to activate that space. And of course, Michael Smith Park is
Yeah,
really
that
a
was
nice
left
space.
out. I've seen it in the paper. There was nothing said about Michael Smith's park.
Yeah, well, that's all the parks, and Michael Smith, along the creek, is a unique park for us and one that we want to enhance.
And they still having a lot of people going down to that lower ground where the gazebo. Josh told me it was tore down, so, I don't know. I think they doing other things down there, you can't see them. They used to plant marijuana down there.
Ms. Calhoun, you have some other issues you want to discuss with us? We're doing a lot of debating about Michael Smith Park. Are there other issues besides Michael Smith Park?
Well, Josh, I wish he was here, he could tell you more. But, you know, they want, like a restroom, you know, somewhere, more things for the young kids to play with. It ain't enough things down there for them. They want that water splash, they worry me to death. But, it's other things, but I'll talk to Tony about that.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that you set up a scheduled meeting with Josh or with Earl or both, and,
Well, I did
put-
meet
let
with
me
Josh
finish up.
last week
Yeah.
over to the park.
but you need to let those guys help you put together a list of concerns about the park and put it in
That's what I
writing,
told-
and then have the list given to the city manager so it can become a part of the budgetary process so we can check them off, because coming to talk to us at a commission meeting about Michael Smith
Earl
Park.
knows.
I know, but let me try to give you some direction like I did last time,
Oh, okay.
okay? Because if you get it in writing and you get a list, then we can start looking at that list and work to try to check some of these things off. We've been closed down for a long time, so
I know.
I know your list has probably grown, but get that list in writing, get it to the city manager and to Josh, and then we'll start working on it, because we can't resolve those kind of things in a meeting like this. It's got to be
Well,
done at
he's
some
got it,
those
but
other meetings.
like he said, he'd be here in a minute.
Yeah. You got something else on your list so we can move on?
Now you can move on.
I think Mr. Hunbacher's waiting to speak too, I think. Oh, 5 minutes? Okay. He's reminding us at 3 minutes, really, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Calhoun.
Thank
Let us
you.
know.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I know.
Come see us again.
You got my wife's T-shirt on too, don't you?
What'd you say?
I said you got my wife's T-shirt on.
No, I don't.
Yeah, it says Black Queen. I made me think about my wife. That's cute.
Maybe we're supposed to call her Queen Calhoun.
Queen Calhoun. Oh, I love it. That's pretty. Pretty T-shirt.
You know where we shop at.
All right, anybody else? Hear the public. Seeing none, we'll move right into commissioner comments, if there are any.
Where do you want to start? Looks like Kevin wants to start on his end.
Does it? No, I was just, I mean,
Sure, go
everybody's
ahead.
probably going to say something about the Brass Band Festival,
Oh, we'll
and I will start that, and want to congratulate Missy on her first successful one. I think she's been COVIDed out and rained out and everything else, and I thought the changes they had to make worked out really well. It was a nice weekend.
Anything?
Am I next?
Don't
I
have to be.
failed to do this at the last meeting. I would like to give a shout out to our Public Works. I believe it was our Public Works. In the same week, I had two citizens to call about some work that had to be done in their yards. Their grass and part of their yard had to be dug up, and they did not come back and fix that in a timely manner. But as soon as I had talked to Earl about that, they both called me and said it was done within the day. So I appreciate them getting to that really quickly. And this past Friday, Mr. Coffey and I had the privilege of attending a meeting that was hosted by the Kentuckians for Better Transportation. And I believe there's a huge opportunity for us as a community to work with the things that they are doing in transportation, and specifically in air transportation. So the technology is mind-blowing. My mind was blown. I'm still processing that. And thankfully, we have Jennifer Kirchner, who now works for the KBT, as a voice for our community as well. So Earl and I are going to make sure that we stay in the loop on that. But I was truly blown away by what they presented. I'm not sure how much we can talk about it.
No, I mean, it's really acknowledge, cars changed the world back years ago. And then airplanes came along and all these other things. And it's just a continuation of modernizing of how people get from point A to point B. And the, where people live was interesting. It's not based on distance. It was based on historically going back, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. It's based on the time it takes to get somewhere. And as modern transportation opportunities change, including modern air travel that will be different, we spread out more and more. And seeing that globally and how that impacts economic activity, it really makes us think about the airport in a way that probably we haven't and probably need to think about. And as a community, not just as a city, but as a community, and how we view our interaction with places that are an hour away by car that are not going to be an hour away in the future. And the future is a lot sooner. What we're seeing evidence of is that the future is a lot sooner than what we realize, including maybe as much as the next 2 years. And so it's interesting, and it is not mind-blowing, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, maybe not for you as an engineer, but it really was for me, who is not an engineer. And what they're doing is they're developing an electric-powered airplane that can do, 70 to 80-mile trips, which totally changes transportation and the way we can view transportation. So they can do a 70 to 80-mile trip in 15 minutes. So anyway, it was very enlightening to me, and we need to get in the loop on that, and we have a great airport already, and I just feel like we have a lot of things to offer this company and that group as a community. So I just wanted to let everyone know. That was very educational for me. And I thought also, Earl, you were going to talk about some security.
Security, yeah. We not having been open in a long time has made us, as we've taken that down, I noted with Dexter here a second ago, how the barricades between you all are down, and how it's just totally a different environment. And we have to circle back to some of the security measures that were talked about at length before COVID hit. We have installed the bullet-resistant glass and created separation in some of the windows where we have cash transactions. We need to continue to look at that and do internally some training, and also to make sure that we are as safe as we need to be with modern threats. And so we'll work with the police chief and try to evaluate that. And we just want that not to be lost as we're opening back up. Then we have to come back to that conversation that had taken a necessary pause.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll go. I would just want to give a shout out to the Danville baseball team for winning sectionals and going to state. And another shout out to the Bull County girls softball team. They were in state and won and are going to the next round of tournament. So, and like Kevin said, what really makes Bull County special and Danville are the many volunteers, and just seeing so many in our community come together to assist with the brass band and bring it back again was just really special, and just to persevere through the heat and the rain. But it all worked out marvelous. So well done, community.
And all the young people who volunteered over the weekend.
Yes, lots. That's all.
I'm glad y'all taking care of my business. That's good. The only thing left, which things, shout out to Foundry Playhouse, because in spite of the rain, whatever, they had a great opening Friday night. I ate dinner up front of the Royal Falls, Cumberland Falls Friday night. It's all excellent playing type of food. It's going to go on throughout this week. But I've been given the task of working on the ML Team Community Committee, and I have talked to several people, including some commissioners and mayor, and have a list of 9 names to present tonight as a ML Team 2022 committee. And these names are listed in alphabetical order. The first one is Scotty Atkins, who is my wife, Amy Bud, Jane Dewey, Ernest Dunn, David Gay, Dave Goodwin, James, is it M. Hood? I call him James Hood Jr., but that's not his name. Kay McGuire and Alethea Price. These folks have worked on some other and things throughout the course of the years and have graciously volunteered to have a big dinner in 2022. I'll be running here sometime last week, 1st of July. And then with your assistance and direction, I'd like to also encourage you, once we get started, to reach out to the NAACP, the Human Rights Commission, Central Latino, and the Arts Center. So we can really have a very representative community committee working on like MLK activities early for 2022. So Mr. Baker, I need to ask the commission to approve this list today. Give us some direction on what we do.
We have the cart a little bit before the horse there. What you would have to first do is the commission would need to approve the development of an ordinance establishing a standing committee of the city of Danville, after which time an ordinance would have to be prepared to create the committee. And then after it was created by 2 successful readings and publication, then members could be nominated typically by the mayor and approved by the commission or by the commission at large. So it may not go into effect at the order of which you prescribed for tonight, but that would be okay.
Could we not vote on that now?
Not without an ordinance, because to create a standing committee of the city,
What I understood you say was we could agree to have an ordinance made.
you would instruct me to create an ordinance.
Do you need a vote for that?
Typically, that if it doesn't come from a recommendation of staff, then a commissioner can make a motion to create an ordinance to create that standing committee that would give us the instruction from you to prepare whatever necessary documents would be needed.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Sir, second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Discussion? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Like sign. There you go.
So we will take steps now as staff to develop an ordinance to create a revision to our code of ordinances to create a new standing committee.
The committee designed to support the celebration of the Martin Luther King Day. Is that, and organize events around?
I was of the understanding last time we talked that this was not necessarily going to be a standing committee and that I did not have to go through all that process, but I applaud it becoming a standing committee, so I'll yield to that.
The alternate is to simply have an ad hoc committee, and you can do that by resolution. And you could propose that we do that next time and that it be, the members that you suggest there would be participants in an ad hoc committee, which would not require revision to our code of ordinances.
Can we do those on parallel tracks? I mean, to get the first one kind of rolling, up and rolling, and then I'd like to see it be a standing committee personally. but-
Well, I would too.
Yeah, if you want it to be a
because it's gonna
standing
happen every
committee, let's
year.
fix the ordinance and go
Okay.
on. It sounds, the feedback I had received was that that's the direction ultimately that folks wanted to go. And so we would suggest sticking on that course.
All right with you, Mr. A?
Oh, I'm okay. I just, I don't want us to come up the Thursday before ML King Day, trying to put together a community-wide ML King celebration. We've been dragging our you-know-whats on this for several years, and we've even talked about this several times here in this chamber, so.
Well, and it's in January, and so the planning needs to start happening as soon as possible if there is going to be something. And usually if you have an ad hoc committee, there's some sort of sunset. And I would rather it was a standing committee, that way we don't have to worry about reappointing
And Commissioner
people every
Atkins,
year.
how many members did you have on your proposal?
There are 9 members.
9 members. Okay. Okay.
And that, again, I think the mayor and I came up with like 15 names about 3 months ago. We started talking about this thing. So we just sort of, again, trying to catch up with people and people feeling comfortable. I just do better work when I can talk to people face to face and I can on the phone or email trying to get them to volunteer work on some committee. So I'll take the lead from this committee, from this commission. I just want to get something started. So it can truly be something that the community can have ownership in.
If you want to help speed the process up, what would be helpful for me is of those individuals that you have outlined there, if you can stagger their term. The initial appointment of every committee requires staggered terms. So if we have 9 members, for instance, if we're going to have 4-year terms or 3-year terms, I don't care. We could have 3 classes of 3-year terms if that's fine with you. The math seems to be easier that way to me. Then if you just want to say who's going to serve for 3 years, who's going to serve for 2 years, and who's going to serve for 1 year, if you can provide those, we can put this on Commissioner Cottle's speed track and had the nominations ready. Well, he wanted to have 2 tracks, didn't you? Then,
Ashley, let's let Ashley sit down with Mr. Atkins and go through that.
okay, that'd be great. Yeah, I wasn't wanting that tonight.
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
saying
Now they've
that
voted
at
on
some
it,
point, as we're planning this, that we could have that.
Yeah, and that way he knows to get with Ashley and
I say we let Haley do it. She hadn't been always picked on her tonight. You want to do it? You do.
She'll help Ashley.
No, thank you. I want to thank you for taking this and moving it. I think the community has been remiss in not giving that day the attention it deserves. So thanks for doing that.
And you found 9 people who would serve on a committee, and that's pretty outstanding in itself.
There's more, but in trying to put something together, I know Stephen always says that magic number of 3, 5, 7, even when I said 9, but, and I knew there was gonna be some staggered terms, so some people are willing to do some work to get started, and that's what we need to get people started. And then if you get on this list for just a 1-year term, probably gonna be a succession process, we can serve more than 1 term, so we have to figure all that out, but I'm okay, I just want to get started.
So in addition to the thank you to Miss Angolia and all that went into it, I want to thank the Danville Police Department for all the work they do behind the scenes. One of our officers came in at 3:30 that morning to deal with an incident that occurred at 2:30 that morning. And he just stayed up and worked that morning. And that's the kind of things that our guys do, and girls too. And and it's always a pleasure to be able to highlight them. That's all I got. Ready to move on? Item 11 is the payment of the bills, which you have received. Chair will entertain a motion to approve or amend.
I'll move for approval for the bill list in the amount of $1,432,588.18.
Commissioner Terry, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cardinal, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 12 is the presentation of the water plant award. Marshall Carey.
Thanks, Mayor, Commissioner. Just wanted to take a little time here and give a little recognition here before we get into the presentation with some folks that do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to the utilities side of things. So you got your water plant, you got your wastewater plant. Well, these operations function 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. Holidays, whatever it is, we've got to have people, by law and by regulation in those facilities at all times. So one of those folks that essentially spearheads that for the water plant is Andy Tompkins, our water plant supervisor, sitting back here being all quiet. But first of all, Andy's a great guy. I just want to say that and get that on the record. He's been really supportive of me as a new guy coming in, and he fulfills a lot of roles. Not only is he the water plant supervisor, but he's eager to reach out and help in any way he can, utilities wide, so water, sewer, anything. And he's great to do that. He certainly has the know-how to do that, and it's certainly an asset to the city of Danville. I just want to put that out there. So, as with a lot of regulatory agencies, the Division of Water has a lot of overarching regulations tied to our water treatment plant. One of those is directly tied to what's considered turbidity, or how cloudy the water is when we get in from Lake Harrington. Okay, so that fluctuates throughout a calendar year. Okay, and you're rated through the Division of Water of how quickly and efficiently you can get that knocked down to clarity of water. Right. So the area-wide optimization program, which is actually what this award is based on, is a measurement of those particles in the water and how well and efficiently you're able to do that. So this award reflects the daily effort of those folks like Andy and the folks that work with him and myself at the water treatment plant. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is only one of 2 water treatment facilities in the state of Kentucky that has won the award 6 times in the past 10 years. So that's certainly an honor for these folks that put in a lot of the long hours to do that. Again, the water plant operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This award represents a commitment of the water plant personnel in the city of Danville to work with the EPA and Kentucky Division of Water and do the best that we can to provide those services for the people of Danville County. So without further ado, I'd like to present the award to Andy. And I don't know, Andy, if you want to say anything or not. But just wanted to...
No, I'll just say you guys made it really easy by the facility you gave the operators to run over there. Those guys are real professional. I appreciate Marshall and his help. Those guys do a really good job of operating the plant, so thank you.
And you know what else we did? We got Earl out of your building.
No, that was awesome, too. Thanks.
You're welcome.
To give the operators credit, it's Andy and everybody out there, but they, so that's 10 years that included during renovation of the plant, which is total destruction and rebuild. And then also before the plant was upgraded, and then since it's been upgraded, the award's been won. And so that's a good job and strong operational standards internally and care from the staff, and we appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, I guess. I'll just do it from up here if that's okay, I guess. I've got the clicker here. So in previous commission meetings, you've heard me talk about the wastewater treatment plant and how we've got bids out there for letting a phase 1. I gave you all some hard copies there. That way you can look through the hard copies or watch it on the screen here. What I wanted to do today is primarily focus on what phases 1 and phases 2 of the wastewater treatment plant letting brings to the table for the city of Danville and for all the customers that it serves. And again, it's not just the city of Danville, and I'll get into it in a little bit, but it's a pretty progressive amount of customers. I want to talk about in general, the existing wastewater treatment plant, the project needs, talk about the project phasing 1 and 2, talk about existing market conditions. Now, there's a little bit to talk about there based on COVID and some of the things that have come out of that, and then talk about the recommendation at the end of the presentation. Let's see. Oh no, it's not working. if it's easier, we can just forward the slides. I can just ask for a. It's okay. Okay, all right. So this is the first slide to discuss. As I mentioned earlier, you know, I just want to give a little bit of background on the facilities that we have here right now. If hopefully everybody's familiar. If not, you can see I placed a site marker on the map of where the site is located today out on Stanford Road for those folks maybe watching at home that aren't familiar with it. Originally constructed in 1981, so you're looking at 40 years. Now, it has been expanded and renovated, but the latest renovation was 1998. Discharges to Clark's Run, and it receives wastewater drainage from multiple watersheds. So you got Danville, you've got Junction City, Lincoln County, Sewer District Phase 1, and Mercer County Sewer District in the North Point Training Center. So all of that essentially feeds into ultimately the Clark's Run watershed and on to Dix River at the end. So currently we're operating around 6.5, 6.6 million gallons a day with a peak annual flow of 16 million gallons a day. So it's pretty substantial, especially during wet weather season. And I mentioned earlier about the population. That population served approximately 26,000 folks. That's a pretty healthy number there. And what that is all the areas that I mentioned before, Danville, Junction City, Lincoln County, and all these folks that are coming in, essentially what you can consider not only in town and in the county, but also satellite communities that are also being served by our existing wastewater treatment plant here in Danville. Next slide, please. This is just a breakdown of some of the facilities that are out there today and some of the items that, and again, phases 1 and phases 2 of the upcoming letting will discuss a lot of these items and address a lot of these items that, you know, it's like we said before, some of these items are pretty old. Most of the technology nowadays in a facility like this has about a 20-year shelf life. So depending on the amount of usage, you know, you get into a cyclical pattern of having to replace a lot of this stuff. And if you can't replace it, you get into a lot of operations and maintenance costs too. So you got your equalization lagoon, you got oxidation ditches, clarifiers. An important aspect of this particular system is our UV disinfection system. So essentially what that does is very efficiently able to disinfect a lot of the water that gets put into the outfall. And that being said, you know, I had some folks, we've got Rich Smith here with HDR, had him get with Mike Galloway, who is our wastewater treatment plant supervisor, and look at some expenditures over time on some of our bigger ticket items, like the UV disinfection system, for example. Over the past, 5 or 6 years, we've spent about $120,000. That's an aging technology or an aging machine there that is going to be replaced with phase 1. So that's an important aspect. That's one of many examples that we see of, you know, you got your aging system that also leads to extenuating operations and maintenance costs over time. Operations and lab building, the existing one that's there is not very large at all. I've got some pictures coming up. That will be replaced during phase 2, which is a separate discussionary item from phase 1, especially from a bidding standpoint right now. Next slide, please. And now I'm just going to talk about some of the project needs that we discussed before. Anytime that you have wastewater effluent coming into a system like this, you got a mixture of water and solids and rags and you name it. And what does that do? It essentially causes issues at the plant if you can't screen it out properly. Well, with phase 1, that'll provide some automated screening to help the folks at the wastewater plant remove a lot of these solids and objects out of that effluent coming into the system. If you can't get that out and deal with it and dewater it and take it from a sanitary standpoint off-site to be disposed of, that type of material gets into your pump systems and can ruin your pumps. And when I say ruin pumps, I'm talking $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 pumps. So it's imperative that you can head that off as soon as you possibly can. And then there's a picture of the existing operations building. As you can tell, right there's Mike Galloway. He's not with us tonight. He had to run to Perryville to work on a few things and help with some items over there. So appreciate his time out in the field. But he was wanting to be here, and I wish he could be here. But, you know, if you were to ask Mike right now, you know, one of the major issues with what's going on out there right now, and it's just they just don't have a lot of space. Not a lot of office space, and you're talking about an old and aging structure that's been there since, you know, the 80s. Next slide, please. And again, some other key issues and project needs. We're talking about replacing pump stations within the facility, electrical control centers, wiring, all that needs to be updated. You know, we're dealing with aging infrastructure out there that's really starting to catch up with the city of Danville nowadays. And if we're not being forward in a position to try to do something about it, it's just going to really cause an impact financially for the city. You got oxidation ditches, pumps, fiberglass covers, aerators, and then we also included some add alternates into the bid, and I'll discuss those with you later. Next slide, please. And that generator you see right there is on its last leg. And if you were to ask anybody what's one of the more important aspects of any wastewater treatment plant or a water treatment plant is your backup generator. So during the ice storm, for example, we had to rent a generator and park it outside the front door of the wastewater plant because we couldn't rely on that one right there. And if the power were to go down, we'd have a major issue. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to touch on this real fast and talk about some of the regulatory constraints that our wastewater plant has to deal with, and any wastewater plant in the state of Kentucky. But moreover, you know, you've got a laundry list of regulatory items and a lot of, you know, issues from a monitoring standpoint and effluent limitation standpoint that we have to abide by as the city of Danville as a provider for a wastewater treatment plant facility. So I just wanted to bring that to light, and this is just scratching the surface. So that et cetera down there has about 2 more pages of stuff. So instead of overwhelming everybody and getting essentially off track a little bit with the presentation, I just wanted to bring this to light and let you all know that, you know, from a regulatory standpoint, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we have to work, you know, and nurture and develop that partnership with Division of Water and the EPA at all times too. So, and having an updated facility allows you to better respond to these regulatory issues as they evolve over time. They get more and more stringent and strict over the years, right? They certainly won't get less restrictive. So trying to do that with an aging facility is really my point. It becomes more and more difficult. Next slide, please. Okay, so the needed upgrades to the Danville wastewater treatment plant can essentially be broken into 2 phases. The way the plans are set up right now is primarily to focus on phase 1, which is treatment improvements. And then phase 2 is going to primarily focus on capacity needs. So if you remember in the last presentation I gave, I started pointing everybody's thoughts and understanding towards the need for capacity, right? And we need that capacity to help facilitate those economic development discussions as we move forward as a city. But in order to get there, you have to essentially go through the process of phase 1, which is updating that UV disinfection system, you know, your sludge holding tanks, your control operations building. All that groundwork needs to be done in phase 1 before we can get to the capacity discussion. Now, we did look at trying to facilitate a capacity discussion up into phase 1, like I talked about before. But there's a lot of things that couldn't be done, like, for example, the 2 clarifiers that you'll see a picture of in a second takes up a lot of the space where the existing building is today. And something to keep in mind is, you know, much like the water treatment plant, we can't just take this offline for the next 18 months, right? So it has to function fully and meet regulatory requirements while we're doing phase 1. So you have to keep the existing lab building and operations building fully functional. And those key aspects like the UV disinfection needs to be running simultaneously. So there's aspects of that too with this particular project that, you know, lots of folks maybe at home doesn't realize that all that stuff has to be maintained and operating 24/7, like we discussed before. Next slide, please. This is the Phase 2 capacity improvements that I talked about earlier. So you can see, I don't have my laser, but you see the two green circles there, 15 and 16. Those are the two clarifiers, and number 14 there, that elongated green rectangle, that's the new oxidation ditches. Essentially, that's where you get your capacity. In any type of upgrade like this, that's where you get the capacity. And when I say capacity, that gives us the ability to move from 6.5 million gallons a day up to 9.0 and above million gallons per day. And what does that mean? That means economic development, okay, for the city of Danville. So, and as I mentioned before, I've sat in plenty of discussions since I've been here with prospective investors and economic development folks that are always pointing to their capacity needs for their project. So if you've got, any type of industrial element to a potential investor that maybe needs 400,000 or 500,000 gallons a day, well, the city of Danville is reaching that breaking point where we can't logically say that, yeah, we can do it, come on in. Because by permit, we can only do so much. And until we're able to increase capacity, it becomes a challenge. Some of those folks we can facilitate those discussions with, and some it becomes more challenging. So that's an important aspect to keep in mind when we talk about Phase 2 in the future. And like I mentioned before, other electrical updates, site improvements, improvements to the existing clarifiers, which you get a little bit of capacity out of that, and then the two final clarifiers and new oxidation ditches. That's where you get the capacity out of it. So Phase 1 is more systematic upgrades and getting your infrastructure in place, and Phase 2 is the capacity improvements. Next slide, please. And with this few slides here, I just want to touch on a few items. We're coming out of the COVID issues, and the market is still feeling the brunt of a lot of that, right? So you've got your facilities and suppliers that are still trying to, rebuild their workforce and get things up and running. And so what does that do to the producer price index, or what does it do to, material costs related to electrical, mining, plastics, a lot of the things that, copper that we would use on a job site like this, right? So, and I wanted to just bring to light that if you look at the graph and look at the information here just to the right, since January 2021, this PPI exceeded 6% over the last 12 months. That's the first time in 10 years. So what's that tell you? It essentially tells you that most of your products, from a commodity standpoint, are really high right now. Like, for example, PVC pipe is, 270% above where it was this time last year. So on projects like this, that increase in spike in price has a significant impact. And what does that mean for the future? Well, this essentially means the future's unknown. The only thing that you can point to is the fact that the future's probably going to be just as expensive, maybe. So it's something to keep in mind when you talk about what to do now versus what we can do in coming years, right? Next slide, please. This is I just wanted to bring to light too I don't know, you all have probably heard time value of money or cost of money over time. So, and this is at a 5% inflation rate. So, you could knock that down a little bit, but if you're in the 4.5% to 5%, you're about where we are in the past 6 months, to put that in perspective. So the current Phase 1 estimate is 13.6 million, right? So that's at zero. If you take the 5% inflation and add that over the years, you can see how that starts to stair step up pretty quickly, right? So what does that mean? That means the longer you wait, the more expensive anything gets, which holds true with a lot of things, but it certainly holds true with a project like the wastewater treatment plant, where it's a mixture of labor force and materials and electronics and machinery and asphalt and concrete. It's a hodgepodge of all that type of discussionary topics, right? So any type of commodity increase certainly affects the bottom line on a project like this. I just wanted to bring that to light. Next slide, please. Okay, so back in March 23rd, we received 3 bids, okay? Smith Contractors out of, I guess they're out of Lawrenceburg? Yeah. They came in with a low bid of $14.3 million. So ever since then, we've been working with Smith Contracting and working with our friends at HDR here that has helped facilitate a lot of these discussions too, of looking at ways to reduce cost, right? I mean, obviously you see the 14.3 and it is what it is. We wanted to look at every way possible between then and now to get the cost down as best we can. We went through what's called a value engineering process where we went to Smith Contractors and gave them a list of items that we would like to be discussed back and forth and negotiated with us with the propensity of maybe being taken out of this contract. What could and couldn't be done, and what, if we could do it, what was the value of that for you as a contractor, right? So we came up with about $450,000 total deducts out of that VE analysis. And then we also continued looking at ways of being forward-thinking, which has been done on a few projects already. One's the fire station, I believe the other was a water treatment plant, but looking at ways that the city could purchase a lot of the materials and equipment associated with the project and with a tax exemption standpoint. What's that do? That saves net saving, and that's a conservative number, about $300,000. And hopefully it's more than that at the end of the day. But to Smith Contractors' credit, they've been willing to have these conversations with us, so a lot of the credit goes to them too. Total contract deducts is approximately $750,000, which brings that down to 13.5 roughly. So just wanted to point out, we've been very proactive with trying to reduce costs as best we can, and the contractors have been willing to negotiate back and forth with us over the past couple of months. So those add alternates, numbers 1, 2, and 3, those are just on top of the existing contract, which we're not going to do any of those add alternates with this contract at this time. So, and then next slide should be the questions. You missed it there, but that's a bobcat. That's our mascot at the wastewater plant. So, long story short, phase 1, you're looking at 13.6. And then what our goal is if we get the approval to move forward with phase 1, we'll immediately finish phase 2 design in parallel, so that when phase 1 wraps up in about 18 months, we'll be in a position to immediately let phase 2 right behind it if we have financial means to do that. So I'll be welcome to take any questions you have, or
Let me say a couple things.
Go ahead.
In that Marshall wasn't here the entire time. Marshall, this was a good presentation, and we appreciate it and had a lot of good information in it. We'd like to point out, though, that as a result of COVID over the last 15 months or so, our ability to have public awareness raised has probably been negatively impacted. And so we have talked about the wastewater plant. I can't remember, Rich, 2 years ago you started design, probably? And so, unfortunately, for all of us, there's been a lot of communication that has been hindered, probably. And so, unlike the water plant where you had 2 years of good, consistent messaging, the messaging for this project has been lax, probably, but that doesn't diminish its importance, right? Setting that aside, unlike the water plant, phasing is more easily done on this project, which is why we're talking about phase 2 being the capacity component. If you looked on the aerial image, you saw yellow squares and parts, and then you saw the big green. So this project is very modular given its space, and so it's easier to develop in phases. The reason why that helps is it reduces your debt servicing a little bit and more easily aligns it with the construction schedule, right? And then the other thing we would like to point out is we have talked about this and brainstormed about different ways that we can drive the price down. I really, our approach was to eliminate components, try to blend the schedules, but at the end of the day, with everything that we're facing, it looks like that it's best to award. Our recommendation is to award phase 1 as it sits. and include all the work in Phase 1 so that your Phase 2 is exclusively capacity, essentially. Then we have, the debt service has already been acquired for and is being maintained for the first $10 million of the project, which was our original target. But given the impact of the commodities as he described with the market conditions, the cost did come in high. So we're looking at $13.5 million for this phase. So the plan or the actual budgeting will occur in the fiscal year you're in, where we will budget the expected expenses in this year, and you will incorporate the remaining $3.5 million into your budget, believe it or not, in July of next year. But that's how long it takes to build it. And so we would anticipate some of those expenses occurring after July 1st next year. And so we will therefore, as we talk about debt service and adding debt service on Wednesday, you would anticipate the debt service, the remaining debt service occurring early in 2022. And so you all may, the general public won't understand that as much as if they've not been observant of some of our budget meetings, that will make more sense for you guys, having seen some of the budget information.
Well, to me, the Phase 1 is we have to do, there's no choice, because we'll start getting fined if things start going bad, and that's serious money there, so that's something we have to do, and the capacity is something I think we want to do to be the regional provider of services, so.
So the recommendation is to award to the low bidder with value engineering that is tied to the award, and then we will do a change order documenting the direct purchasing component. That will probably happen, if not the next meeting, the very next meeting after that.
Martha, how long will it take to do Phase 1?
We're thinking about 18 months.
And do you plan then to go straight on into Phase 2?
Oh, sure. If we have the financial means to do so, absolutely.
The original thought is that you have a gap of time that you could separate Phase 1 from Phase 2. But looking at the market or the demand on our plant, that separation is decreased. And so by the time you get done fully getting approval to build Phase 2, it's going to be time to do it. And so we'll definitely recommend transitioning there.
In the case of the fire station, we went ahead and issued financing for that. Should we consider doing that for Phase 2, considering that interest rates are starting to move up again?
Yeah, we can look at that. I don't know that we can get that done. So what we would talk about on any debt service that you would issue, and we'll go over it more on Wednesday, but you would look at, because of the partnership the city had with Center, doing a January discussion on the next issuance of some debt. And so that's something we can incorporate into that conversation at that time easily. And certainly we'll note that.
Yeah, because we got to get this done. I'm surprised we haven't already been.
Well, we've mulled it over probably unnecessarily too long, just because of how much it is and what the original debt service is. But we've pushed the contractor's bid hold as long as we can, and it's definitely decision time.
Smith Contractors are somebody that we know about or have.
They're reputable, and we have confidence in their ability to do the work. And if you look at the prices, they were, you had a tight window of prices, so relatively, and so we have confidence in their work and their price.
So we need approval of this resolution.
Yes, we do. Item 13.
I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-06-1403.
Thank you, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Terry, thank you. Discussion?
I just wanted to thank Marshall for addressing that, the importance of economic development and our capacity. Because everything that comes out of the faucet goes into the
Somewhere.
ground somewhere. and has to be processed at the wastewater plant, which is actually more expensive than treating water to drink.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, there's always cost prohibitive, issues, whether it's the water plant or the wastewater plant, either one. I mean, again, we talked about some of the regulatory concerns that keep escalating year by year, and that's a cost, right? That gets put into discussions for any municipality. So it speaks for itself.
But Marshall, I forget that you are the new guy because you came in so quietly, and as far as we're concerned, no one missed a beat when you took over,
well, it's
and I
good.
hope that's the case
Yeah.
from Andy
Don't ask it.
also.
No, I'm kidding. No. Andy's, well, you get people like him, Mike Galloway, Lindsey Yoakum, Chris Scheffler, the guys and all the folks in utilities that provide that supportive role. And you got Earl here and Erica and a lot of the folks that help wheels, make the wheels turn every day. And it's a big difference. So
Well, thank you for that.
You're a good leader, Marshall.
appreciate it. Yes.
And I was just going to say, I appreciate your very thorough presentation because this is newer to me.
Yeah.
I had a lot of questions. You answered every one of them,
Good.
including, working to save money, the deductions, looking at the time value of money, what will it cost us later? Just
Great.
thank you for being extremely thorough.
Okay, good. I'm
and
glad I didn't put anybody to sleep.
I can-
So that's
I have no questions left.
great.
so.
Thank you.
Have we taken a vote yet?
That's right. That's right.
Resolution 2021-06-14-04. This is a memorandum of understanding with our airport. Continue on, Mr. Carrier.
Thank you, Mayor. This is in regards to the entrance at the Bull County Airport. They're wanting to put in a new sign, illuminated sign. They're also asking participation from the city of Danville to allow them to get into our electric service box, which operates our water pump station directly adjacent to that entrance. And that's about the gist of the MOU. We're just allowing them for a period of 2 years, and we'll reevaluate it after 2 years. Real low nominal feed, just enough to keep the lights on the sign, about 4 amps, I believe, something like that. Pretty
So
low.
it won't affect the pump station?
No, it won't. And we've asked in the MOU that they provide a certified electrician to do all the work and everything, so. And I've already passed this along to the airport folks, and they're good with the wording as it is.
I'll move for approval of Resolution 2021-06-1404.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cottle, thank you. Discussion? Marshall, who are you working with at the airport on this?
Oh, gosh. I can't remember the guy's name now.
Rob Coyle?
No,
Christian?
Christian, yes, sir, Christian, yes. Nice guy.
Will somebody be there? I know you said a licensed electrician. I got that. Somebody be there to even supervise that, or will
Oh,
we
yeah,
need it?
we've asked that they contact us when they're ready to do the work, and we'll have guys out there.
Good. Any further comments, questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you,
Marshall.
sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Item 15 is the parklet placement guidelines. Mr. Morgan, I'm not touching this one. You go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Sorry for being late. I had a softball game to coach real quick. According to the KYTC, our parklets have to be removed after the COVID restrictions are lifted, which they are now lifted. So we're trying to keep them in place as long as we can before they force them to be removed. But in the meantime, we want to find new homes for them on city streets. We want to try to move them from where they're at to their new locations without having to take them down to the garage, take them apart, put them back together again. The less we do that, the longer they'll last, theoretically. So we would like to find new locations for them. So I started working on some placement guidelines that I've used some examples from other cities. A couple cities in Texas I looked at, and Philadelphia has guidelines that are similar to these, and kind of pulled those together, and you have those guidelines in your packet. We just wanted to bring this to you all just to communicate it, that this is what we're putting together at this time. It's not final. This is just a draft. I've thought a couple more things I need to add just now, sitting here looking at it before I started speaking. So just to kind of let the community know that we're gonna put this out there to the community to say, hey, if you want a parklet in front of your business, let the city know. We're gonna put together a little permit application. Haven't even started putting that application together. It'd be very simple. Just, hey, we want it here. Here's a location. Come look at it with us, because that's what it'll take. It'll take us going out to the site, making sure it's a good site. But we put some guidelines together as far as where they can be located, and it's very simple. It's just in front of businesses that have the room and the parking spaces for them. Don't block any utilities, those kind of things. One of the items we are considering is that they would only be out from March to November, maybe, so they're not out during snow plowing season, just so we don't have issues with that. And COVID restrictions not in place. Usually people don't want to sit outside during those months anyway, so we're going to look at doing that. And, you know, like I said, they'll be on city streets only, because that's a KYTC guideline. I spoke to them in depth about it, and that's something that's come down from way up in the secretary's office, that we're pretty limited on when we could have these, and it was only going to be allowed during COVID. I don't think there were very many cities in the state that were even allowed to have these on state roads. I think Louisville kind of led the way. That's where they kind of, KYTC worked with Louisville to establish KYTC's guidelines during this process. That's what we had to meet. That's why the water barricades were out there and those kind of items. So I'd say in the next week or so we can kind of go ahead and look at a good place to put them. We'll be putting something out to the public, probably on Facebook. We may even send in something to the newspaper just so it gets out to everyone that, hey, if you're interested in this, come to City Hall or email us and let us know. And while I'm thinking about that, KYTC reached out to us and said they're going to start milling. We put something out on Facebook today and to the newspaper, a press release. They're going to start milling Stanford Avenue and Main Street up to First, and that section of North Third between Main and Broadway that's in poor shape. They're going to start milling those tomorrow. And specifically the section of North Third, they're going to mill it down 6 inches, and then they're going to put base asphalt back in up to an inch within the current surface, and then they're going to let it set for 2 weeks and people drive on the base asphalt. So for 2 weeks, it's going to sit there and look unfinished because it's going to be an inch below where it is now. There's going to be a bump going in, bump coming out. But just let people know that it'll be that way for a couple of weeks. Then they'll come back in. They'll let it compact over that time with traffic on it. Then they'll come back in after 2 weeks and put the surface asphalt on. So a lot of good activity going on there. Some things that really need attention from them that they'll be working on. So
Does that help the prevention of the potholes returning by
should.
doing it that way?
It should, yes. If they mill down 6 inches and put all new base in and let it get compacted, it should help a lot, especially in that section. But we've got some other areas they need to look at as well. But it kind of depends on what they find if they mill down 6 inches. I'll say that from just an engineering standpoint. If they find good base underneath of that, if they have a good sub base, it should solve the problem. But they'll make that decision when they get milled down, and they'll see what they need to do.
Josh, you want to kind of take this time to explain to us, to the public, how is it, we've got the parklets, we've had one that's been there for quite a while. Next thing you know, you got these white barriers coming up. They weren't up for a long time, and now we're being told the parklet's got to come out. Seems really confusing for the public.
I think it's, KYTC is traditionally someone that has very strict guidelines with how they deal with roads. And I think COVID created a situation where they had to react more than usual on the fly. And I think they tried to work with cities like us to do things that helped out with the situation. And then as the year went along and they had more time, they started developing guidelines. That's what they do. They're good at that. They're good at that. They're good at developing guidelines. So they did that, and they reached out to us and said, here they are. And at that point is when we kind of had to react to that and say, okay, we need barricades up. We see that now that they're going to have to be removed after COVID restrictions are lifted. So I believe that was in March that we received those, April. So we've kind of had to react to what they've said to do. And I think it's just a result of COVID having to make everybody adjust as they went instead of having a real good idea of what they were doing all along. So I think they've been forgiving of us. I'll give them that with some of the things that we've done. They've worked with us to make sure that we can keep those in place while we got the things that we needed that they requested on the guidelines. So I think that we'll see how long it takes them to ask us to remove them. But I think we can find new homes for them. I think we can make good use of them. And I think they met the goal that we intended for them to meet during COVID. I mean, I wish we'd been able to get them out earlier than we did this spring. But Public Works worked hard to prepare them and get them ready, and we got them out when the weather would change. So I think they met the intended goal, and I think that's the way other cities have reacted as well. I mean, those cities that put these in, they've had to kind of take them out the same way, that it's, okay, they met their goal during COVID, now they have to come out. But hopefully we can find new homes for them and keep using them in the future for our city streets. I think they serve a great purpose. And I think as we talked about the downtown master plan and, trying to expand the vitality of Main Street over to some of our side streets. And I think this could possibly help with that. If we have new businesses popping up on Walnut and popping up on Broadway or popping up on Second Street, those are places that these parklets could end up that could help those businesses, provide some outdoor space for them, so.
The subtle thing that was learned too is that so how many parking spaces were removed for those?
I believe we had 5 spaces removed, 2 of the parklets took up 2 spaces and 1 took up 1 space.
So there was 2 things that were happening. One, we were immediately reacting last year to the need to provide outdoor seating for restaurants to improve their survivability. And so then, coupled with that, with the downtown master plan, we wanted to view what the street would look like if the sidewalks were wider, or if you lost 5 or 6 parking spaces in support of the streetscape project. So some of the recommendations were to narrow the street, permanently move the curb around, and create more pedestrian space downtown. And what we find is, the feedback we've gotten so far is that space is welcomed. Certainly there's a limit to how much of that you can have, though, as we talked about deploying the parklets that are there, as we met with businesses, and so the final locations moved around a little bit based on feedback that we'd gotten from the street. And so it's a good study, and we feel like that it does, as the final design for streetscape is being detailed, we do believe that there is room for additional pedestrian space, and that the street can be narrowed successfully, and we can drop 2 or 3, 5 parking spaces and survive that. So there was 2 purposes in the study of the streetscape, and then also to serve COVID. And so we think we got good information from both things, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the one thing that we get asked all the time is that if the parklet's in front of my restaurant, is it just seating for my customers or seating for anyone that's downtown? And if I read these new guidelines, if I got to apply for a permit, that means the permit's going to be for the parklet to be put in front of my business, for my customers only?
And I probably need to add some language about that. No, it'll still be public accessible. Like that's, there's no restrictions on who can use it. One of the items in here, which we need to kind of finalize if we're going to leave it in there or not, is that a lot of other cities say alcohol cannot be served, it can be even placed in front of a business that serves alcohol, which is something different than we did during COVID. Yeah. And that's an interesting discussion. It makes life hard on codes enforcement, and even that restaurant. I mean, that restaurant struggles to police that themselves. That people take alcohol onto them. So I think there's some items in here I need to talk to codes enforcement about and finalize, and we need, there'll be adjustments to these guidelines as we work through this process.
Sure. Yeah, we need to approve these guidelines tonight, or what? He's asking us to approve them?
I don't think I needed approval. I just wanted to.
Just FYI?
Just FYI.
All right.
Let's move to item 16, the resolution 2021-06-14-05. This is the solid waste contract. Continue on, Mr. Morgan.
Yes. At a previous meeting, the commission selected to award the solid waste contract to Republic Services. So they have we provided the contract to you all for approval tonight. Stephen, did that get in your all's packet, the contract? Okay, so we just need a resolution approving that contract. I wanted to reiterate that this will, that contract, the bid form in that contract is $10.50 a month per customer for weekly collection of refuse with a $4 discharge for additional carts, and then $3.50 per month per customer for the biweekly collection of recyclables. So it's same service provided as previous contract. Costs have gone up a little bit.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move for approval of, make sure I'm on the right one. Yes, 2021-06-1405.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cottle, thank you. So Republic's going to be servicing us from Lexington.
They'll have an office in, I think it's Lincoln County, is
In
where they'll be
Lincoln.
working out of now, yes.
Okay, yeah, sorry. But they're not going to have a facility here
No, they
in
will-
Danville.
They will not, no.
I think it's important for everybody to know that. So if you have an issue, who is the public supposed to call to get that resolved?
The new contract, they should reach out to Republic directly.
Okay, so how are we going to let the public know that and publish that contact information?
We need to do a better job of that, letting the public know who they need to call. That's one of the issues I've kind of worked on it since I've been here. Notice the biggest problem is that we're kind of working as a middleman for complaints to Republic. And I think that's natural because people are paying their bill to us, that's who we're going to call. They're going to call us with complaints. But it causes miscommunication. It causes delays that we need to clean up. That's one of the things we put in the new contract is the complaints do not need to come through the city. They need to go directly to Republic, and Republic needs to handle that directly. They don't need to, we get a lot of, customer calls us, we email Republic emails us, we call the customer calls us back, says, no, it's different than that, and we call Republic, and it's back and forth, back and forth. And we need to clean that up, and that's part of this contract is to do that. They're indicating they have some new things coming with, they're gonna have an app where you can put things on there when you have complaints, but I know that's not the solution. I mean, the solution is good old fashioned, you call somebody, they answer, they help you. And I think we're gonna have to just stay focused on that as a city, is to make sure that they're doing the things that they're asked to do. There's penalties in this contract for them not responding to these issues. I don't know if we've ever really enforced those before, but that's something that we need to start doing, because that will help get them headed in the right direction.
Yeah, that'd be, with the new contract, that'd be good.
Yeah, so we've had some issues with people calling the numbers on their cans, and that may or may not be the correct number, is what I'm told.
Yes.
Yeah, my husband happens to be one of the people who has gone round and round with Republic, and I think, come to find out, he may have been talking to the wrong people.
Right.
So that was a huge problem. So we need to make sure that we have the correct line of communication out there.
Yes, they did a study leading up to this contract, Republic did, of how many of their cans are misbranded. I can't remember the exact number, but it's a significant amount of their cans are just
It is.
the wrong company, the wrong phone numbers, the wrong lids. A lot of different things are wrong with that. And that's where, once they get this contract approved, they're gonna push to get those cans replaced with the correct cans. One of the things we're going to do is we're gonna audit the customers with them once a year. A city employee is gonna
Okay.
ride with them and
That'll
count
help.
and audit what cans are where, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be replaced, and are we serving all the customers we're supposed to be serving? So that's part of the contract that we're gonna work with them on. There's a lot that can be done to clean this up, and a lot of not complicated things, simple things that we just need to focus on and make sure are happening.
The new contract has really a lot better reporting requirements from them.
And it should be part of the problem before is that the last contract we had it was the ability of the contractor to predict what each house had from a cost perspective, a number of carts, that kind of thing. Wasn't always clear. That created a lot of the confusion. So the contract is better it's better for the city and it's better for the vendor or the contractor because he understands, or the organization understands their cost better and understands how that's going to be recovered. And then also, they have like I said, a rigid reporting system that they have to reach out to the city. Those two things is going to make it easier for city staff to administer the contract, which helps with complaints also. Because like Josh said, right now, we're totally reliant on city staff, Haley particularly, trying to keep track of those calls and follow up with them and do those things. And really, that we shouldn't be in that business.
Josh, I was thinking I'd seen in something that's been presented to us, a regular household in the community with 2 garbage cans and 1 recyclable container from this company. Can you explain to us the monthly charge? I don't see that in there.
So with the new contract, it's for 1 garbage container and 1 recycling container, it's going to be $14 a month. And then any additional garbage containers you add will be $4 a month extra.
Okay. And same thing for an additional recyclable.
Well, that includes the recycling. So it's $10.50 a month for the garbage, 1 garbage can, then you add $3.50 to that for the recycling. So it's $14 total for garbage and recycling. And then if you want to add any additional garbage cans to that, it's an extra $4 a can.
And that's up from 12 something?
Yeah, I think right now we're about $12.20 a month for garbage and recycling. So as we discussed before, I mean, with the other bid that we received at over $20 a month,
Yeah, I know,
this was the better value. But I think that was the nature of a 10-year contract expiring, bidding out the new contract. We assumed we would get a seat increase.
Did we not even talk about a 10-year contract, or they don't want to talk about a 10-year contract?
I don't think either
anymore?
party wanted to talk about a 10-year contract again. I think that was just too long. We have the ability to extend it 1 year at a time for 5 additional years if both parties agree to it. So if after 5 years, everything is going well and everybody's happy with the situation and the cost and everything, we'll come back to you all to see if we want to extend it a year.
Do we have a motion and a second?
We have a motion and a second, yes.
Can I call for the question?
You certainly may. We still have quorum. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, like sign.
Mr. Mayor, may I move for a 5-minute recess? Seems like all my commissioners have fallen off the ledge up here, so.
Now's the time to get stuff done. You can certainly make that motion.
that.
You all
Wait.
want a break?
No, we just got 2 items left, is that right?
Let's forge ahead.
Let's go ahead then.
All right, item 17 is resolution number 2021-06-14-06. Mr. Morgan, this is about the KU tree grant.
Yes, included in your packet is an agreement with KU to accept a $4,000 grant for trees in the community. It's a 50-50 matching grant, but it's in years past, it's been matched by the tree committee that raises money around town through donations. And this year, we usually plant the trees in late November, early December, into January sometimes, depending on the weather. But it looks like this year the focus will be along the new trail along Kentucky 2168.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion?
So move for 2021-06-14-06.
Commissioner Atkins, thanks. Commissioner Cottle?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Like sign. Motion carries. Item 18 is resolution number 2021-06-14-07. This is proposals for the Old Fackler Street right-of-way. Mr. Morgan?
Yes, the city sent out an RFP to the community for proposals for the Old Fackler Street right-of-way. On May 25th, we received 2 proposals. As you can see in your packet, we received one proposal for $1,000 that indicated that no improvements would be done to the property with their proposal. And then a second proposal for $3,500 that did not provide any development plan. Committee of City Staff, we met about this and reviewed both proposals and determined that the second proposal didn't really meet the requirements of the RFP. They did, there were things in there that it said they shall provide and they did not. So, And we kind of reviewed that. We really only had one responsive bid for $1,000. And after going back and discussing, I talked to Earl about it. I talked to City Attorney Stephen Dexter about it. We discussed the possibility of rejecting both bids and going a different avenue with this. We currently have a RFP on the street for auctioneer and real estate broker services that we were going to utilize for the potential sale of the remaining Toggle Road property was going to be the primary goal of those services. But we could also utilize them here to maybe have a on-site public auction or some other, we would kind of bring them in and say, hey, what's a good way to market this property and get it sold. There was some, I don't know if confusion during the RFP process for the folks that were putting in proposals on this, but what we received, it did not seem like there's probably a better way for the city to conduct this sale. So that's what we're recommending tonight, that we reject both proposals and kind of step back and see if there's a better way to surplus this property.
So you want us to not even vote on this resolution?
No, you would need to vote on it to reject the bids. But in addition to what Josh discussed, what's fascinating or interesting maybe about this process is that you have an adjacent property owner who bid the lower amount, had a complete bid, and would probably just add it to whatever purpose he or she was going to do with their existing adjacent property. And then you have another third party with no relation to the area bid an amount that's higher, but without a development plan. So while there is $2,000 differences between the bid, it does make the city question, what is the value of the property? You have technically one responsive bid, but due to some of the, calculations of value that maybe it's underutilized, undervalued, we don't know. You could accept one bid tonight, or you could deny or reject them all and instruct staff to conduct a public auction, which is ultimately the recommendation. But those are the options before you.
Well, it looks to me like we either make a motion to reject that resolution, or we let it die.
If you approve the resolution rejects both bids.
Okay. Gotcha.
I apologize for having to step out. My day job was calling. I did have some questions about this. You may have already answered them, but I know that property was for sale. Did it actually sell, and does this affect the new buyer? Was this contingent on that
The
sale?
adjacent property owner is the one who submitted the responsive bid of $1,000.
The current owner?
The current owner submitted a bid of $1,000 for this surplus right-of-way.
That's what I wanted to know.
So this resolution, which we've yet to get a first and second on,
Would reject both
would
bids.
reject both. So do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved for Resolution 2021-06-1407.
Mr. Atkins, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Carlos, we are in discussion.
How big a strip of land is this? Remind me.
Josh, you may have that off
It's
the top of your head.
It's 0.157 acres is the size of it.
What's it zoned? Is it?
It is currently zoned RM2. That's kind of another issue that's interesting. And I think, honestly, from discussions with the other bidder, that was the route they were going to go. They just did not put that in writing to us then when they provided their proposal. RM2 is duplex residential. I should clarify that.
Well, I have mixed feelings about this, because if the person that wants it submitted a completed bid, then why are we not giving it to them?
You could. You could, tonight, you could do that.
You could vote this motion down.
You would not vote in favor of this motion and vote to accept the high bid, rather, high responsive bid of the the individual, I don't remember the name, the entity who
Dave
submitted the
Merriman.
bid.
It's the owner of the.
The adjacent property.
Exquisite Jewelry, no. The
No.
music place.
No, it's a new, it's called 514, I believe, LLC.
514 LLC, I think, is who was
Okay.
the bid, the check was from, that they provided as bid bond. But Dan Merriman is who would go on the bid, on the deed, is what was provided.
So if we reject these, it goes to public auction, correct?
If you wanted it to.
Another option for us.
That's what Josh's recommendation was, and it's one of those where, you know, we, as staff, we've kind of ran to a point where we need your direction, to be honest with you. It's not a simple decision for us, it's not a clear-cut recommendation, it's an opinion. And, you know, ideally, the folks that submitted bids would have given us something to sway what is the best use for the property. They both are kind of neutral in what they provided, and so it turns it into a judgment call for you guys, but our recommendation was because there's a value there, and because it is a public asset, we didn't want to judge that the value was $3,500 or $1,000 ourselves, and so our suggestion was, we concluded then, well, we probably need to just auction it. And so that's therefore why you have the resolution in the way that it is, but if you all have a different direction, we'll welcome that and do what you all see fit. But when we looked at it, that's kind of where we ended up, and without any clear-cut thing that guided our recommendation, that's definitely where we ended up.
Is the current owner landlocked on one side, the side where this property is adjacent to it? They can get out?
No, no one's landlocked by this property.
Correct.
It sits at the corner so that the properties on each side of it have access to either state right-of-way or city right-of-way.
Yeah, but not on two sides of it, right? The current owner only has access on one side?
We don't have
The current,
a picture.
the property to the south of it has access to Third Street. There's no property to the north of it. The property to the north of it is Fackler Street.
This,
The property to the east of it is residential, and they front what is called Clark Street.
the acquisition of this property by the current owner, I think, would provide access to Fackler, direct access to Fackler.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
instead of having a Third Street exit, the individual could have an entrance on Fackler.
Could have two, okay. All right, I've read that somewhere, okay. All right.
So in this instance, you have one of the cases where it would be rational in your position to take either position. That's my opinion, due to the amount of money is not significant in this case. So we're talking about a responsive bid of $1,000, an unresponsive bid of $3,500. Staff can conduct the auction to potentially find a higher value for the property. But again, we're talking about 1/10 of an acre tract of abandoned right-of-way.
Plus selling costs.
What's that?
We would have selling costs.
Plus
involved
selling
there.
costs, correct.
Well, my question is, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to make money off of this, or are we trying to be good neighbors and good partners? So I think what we're trying to do here is clean it up for us and the property owner. This bidder did what we asked, and I think we should give it to him. So I'm not in favor of rejecting these bids. I mean,
I would agree with that.
it's almost like we're punishing them for doing what we asked, and I think that's wrong.
So the motion, which we have a first and second on, would, if accepted, would reject both bids.
Yes.
Therefore, we need to get, we need to vote, and the majority need to vote against if you want to go your direction.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Opposed, like sign.
Nay?
Nay.
Mr. Atkins?
I made the motion, so,
Well,
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, you could
we
still
got, we
vote.
got three, we got three
Yeah, we
no's.
got three, yeah.
We got three no's,
Yeah.
so we're good. Now, do you wish to make another motion?
I move for approval of the responsive bid. Is that good enough?
The sole responsive bid. That's right, of 514 LLC in the amount of $1,000 would be the complete motion.
We have
So
a
moved.
motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Cottle. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Mr. Atkins? Motion carries.
We appreciate that. The judgment call of being a good neighbor in that situation is your all's judgment, and we appreciate that feedback.
Thank you. Please express that to the property owner.
No, that's
I'm not-
totally
I
I'm
reasonable.
not
appreciate that in that point of view.
I'm not in the real estate
Good
business.
point.
I'm going to stay out of the real estate business.
And I think the conversation, I think you see, staff was in a predicament where
Yeah.
Absolutely.
the
I know.
process seemed a little, it was one of those where it's best, the judgment calls are best left to the commission, not to staff, and that's why it was presented to you tonight that way.
That is well put.
Perfectly fine. Thank
Moving
you,
right
Josh.
along, item 19.
I said
is-
at my desk wondering what to do with this one, so this
That's
is
all right.
your all's. I wish I could have spoken to you all before I made the recommendation, so this was good.
Item 19 is resolution number 2021-06-14-08. This is a maintenance contract with AK Associates, and Ms. Rebecca Hafley, you've been very patient.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I come to you all tonight to do a contract with AKA Associates. They are our maintenance contract for our 911s, our incoming, outgoing phone calls, 911s, transferring of 911s. They do provide weekly on-site visits. So we have very little issues with them. They're been really good to work with.
Do I hear a motion?
I move.
Motion is made by Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Holland, thank you. Is this folks we're using now?
Yes.
Any further discussions, questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign.
Thank you, ma'am, for that.
Yeah.
Motion
Thank you.
Should all be
Thank
Yes.
Yes.
It's pretty
I-
clear when it comes to 911.
Item 20 is Municipal Order 06-14-02-2021, Police Policy Updates. Chief Gray.
I think you'll have a copy of the policy. Pretty much it's just, we've added into the use of force policy. We've always had a duty to intervene. It was in our rules of conduct, but KLC and DOCJT, the training academies, have asked to move those into the use of force policies instead of a standalone policy. And then we also added the forbidden use of chokeholds and neck restraints.
So you need a motion to approve municipal order 06-1402-2021.
Second.
As presented.
Yes.
Motion is made by Commissioner Atkins, seconded by Commissioner Terry. Any discussion?
This is some really good stuff. I really enjoyed reading this. Learning, more about your procedures and where you're headed, so thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That brings us to the end of our regular meeting, except for,
Under legal, I will take a liberty, since this is our first regularly scheduled meeting, truly to give one other update to the commission that is in regards to the Walker Hall property that the city acquired from Kentucky School for the Deaf, probably back in September, I would say. If you remember, the city then authorized the demolition of the structure that was there, and also went through a zone change process. And after the completion of those, then accepted the proposal, the sole proposal of Ephraim McDowell Health to purchase that land. That transaction was consummated on June the 8th, and I just wanted to provide that quick report to you. As a reminder, the city acquired the property for $890,000. Ephraim McDowell bought it for $900,000, so again, a net gain to the city in that category. They also reimbursed the city for the demolition costs that were barely in excess of $159,000 and change, and plus the roughly $6,100 of acquisition costs that the city incurred through the acquisition as well. So all of those costs were recuperated and are now safely back in the city's coffers as of June the 8th. If you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
It's great FYI.
Do I dare ask if we have any need for an executive session?
Just say no.
Property acquisition. It'll be brief.
That was a yes, I take it.
Go ahead, Commissioner Terry, make it happen.
I will move that we go into executive session for potential real estate acquisition for which publicity at present stage might or would be likely to affect the value per KRS 61810-1B.
I will second just to irritate Mr. Atkins.
We have a motion by Commissioner Terry and a second by Commissioner Cottle. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We are in executive session. Everyone have a good evening.
No, they can't leave.
Do I hear a motion that we move back into regular session?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry, Commissioner Cardle, thank you. All in favor of moving back into regular session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We're in regular session. With no further business to come before this commission, do I hear a motion to move to adjournment?
Well, okay, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardle. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Have a good evening.